I'm sure that a lot of people who were breeding dogs, I'm sure that a lot of people who even noticed the American Pit Bull Terrier around in between 87 and 97, especially if you were in California. I'm going to just say preferably Northern California, especially. I'm pretty sure back in those times, a lot of people remember their parents having shorter style pit bull dogs that resembled the same bullies that you're looking at today. But the ones that your parents probably owned look more like the one that's on my page. Look, when you look on Face the Bully and I showed you a brindle dog, that dog looks like dogs that you owned back in those times and didn't even call that particular dog an American bully. He hadn't even been named an American bully, but you had already owned that particular type dog. And a lot of those dogs back then used to be white and brindle, and a lot of them were red and a lot of them were black. But around those times, around in between 87 and 97, you really didn't see blue dogs. These dogs were white. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of white dogs. It used to be cocaine white dogs. I remember a lot of pit bull terriers when I was coming up. Didn't even know nothing about breeding, just knew that, wow, look at that dog. I like that dog. Get over here and sit down. Come on. I just knew that I liked that dog. We used to go to school sometime and walk through the alleys and see these dogs in people's backyards. These dogs actually was barking at us, so they could have possibly launched at us if they'd have got out that gate and came and bit us, because we was antagonizing them dogs. But we were young, but we were still antagonizing them dogs. And they were white dogs with red eyes. They'd have brindle patches on them. They were brindle dogs. They were never blue. And some of them were red. And even the red ones had black brindle stripes on them, tiger stripes on them. This was how dogs were looking around the time before I even, was like, man, I liked the pit bull, but I knew what a pit bull was because everybody knew what one was. Grandma didn't like them. You couldn't bring that pit bull to her house. She called them pet bulls. You couldn't bring that pet bull to her house. She didn't like them. But we still own pet bulls. We still owned them. But back then, those dogs wasn't blue. They were black. They were white. They were brindle. They were red. I mean, literally, I can't even remember seeing a fawn dog. I can't even remember seeing a fawn dog. I seen red dogs. I just literally, I know I was young, but I knew my colors too. Man, I can't even remember seeing a fawn dog. And then, I got older with these same dogs. Some of them were big a little bit. Some of them were short. They were already short before the name American Bully came. And these dogs were probably American Bully because they wasn't even the colors that the American Bully, when the American Bully started presenting itself, it was presenting itself as a blue dog. No, don't bite that. See, this dog, she'll bite anything. It was literally presenting itself as a blue dog. And I'm seeing that the blue dogs were coming from Gray Line. Although, see, I don't know a lot about Gray Line like that. I just know about what they put on the pads. And on the pads, the Gray Line dogs derived from black dogs. Derived, from Black Bear and Diamond Jim. They were black. I still don't know where this blue came from, but that's what they were. They were black. And, from them came blue dogs. Gray Line, I ain't saying they introduced the blue dogs, but their dogs, especially in NorCal, you know what I'm saying? Like really in NorCal, you know what I'm saying? You really stopped breeding red-nosed pits around the time you seen these blue dogs, because a lot of people used to breed the red-nosed pit bulls. This is what I mean by the dogs with the golden eyes. Where did they go? The red dogs with the golden eyes, they used to be, those were the dogs that were being bred at first. Them was the dogs a lot of people, in NorCal can say that they own. That's what they look like. They were red. And they had golden eyes, like Bright Eyes. Her eyes are kind of like, well, she got kind of like a yellowish, goldish tint to them. But these red dogs had gold, like yellowish, golden eyes. And they were red dogs. Now, a lot of people in the Bay Area had those dogs. A lot of people in Sacramento had those dogs. They remember having these color dogs, black dogs, brindle and white dogs. It was no blue dogs. Red dogs. They were red because a lot of people like that red-nosed pit bull. See, when you grew up, you have to remember the dog that you grew up with, the one that you liked. The one that I remember liking, the one that I remember loving was a red nose. Anybody gonna remember that practically. You're gonna remember a red-nosed dog, a brindle dog, dogs that no longer presented themselves when the blue dog popped out in the 90s. When that dog popped out, all the dogs became blue. It didn't matter how big or how small it was blue. All the color just left on every single dog. So, what I'm saying? A lot of people don't really get that there were colors already here in the terrier dogs. And when a lot of people get them nowadays, they might consider these colors throwback colors, but to be truthful, those are original colors. The color that you're trying to figure out is where the blue actually come in at. A lot of the Gray Line dogs were blue, and then it turned into Gotti, and Gotti has some blue dogs and some black and white dogs. Some brindle dogs. Some brindle dog. I seen a tricolored Gotti. Old school dog though. Not no new school dogs. Talking about when Gotti was popping. When he was, popping. I did see those dogs. When you seen a tricolored dog, you already knew that was something else coming in, because now you had two black dogs create a line of blue dogs, and the blue dogs was throwing out brindle dogs, and then from the brindle dogs came tricolored dogs. A lot of tricolored dogs. Everybody will have that one gene. But for real, this is really how you would have to view it, because that is true. And the tricolored dogs popped out. Once the tricolored dogs popped out, it was just about colors then. But for a minute, it was about blue. And that's where it came from, was, a lot of the gray line and Gotti dogs, which in the end made up a lot of the American Bully. A lot of those dogs was big, man. They were bigger dogs. And when you look at the dogs today, you be like, damn, that cannot be a Gotti line dog or a gray line dog in that dog. And, if it's even on the paperwork, it's like, man, it must be like 8 generations back, like 10 generations back. Because these dogs were big. When you go and look at a gray line dog, they were nice and big sized dogs, and they were called pit bulls. I'm not even, I like gray line. All I do is talk about the American Bully. So I'm not trying to say that they wasn't pit bulls, but they were called pit bulls when you look at them, gray line pit bulls. And they was big dogs. Seen them, man. They was just nice dogs. When you look at all the footage that they have to show us of gray line dogs. When you look at the dog that was called Dax, and he was supposed to have a whole gray line heritage, it's like, no. Couldn't have been. And then any dog that you look at and that's supposed to have a gray line heritage and a Gotti line heritage, when you look at how the Gotti line dogs were, they were bigger dogs. They were really bigger dogs. Like, these were some bigger dogs, and they were gray and white and brindle and black and white. They had those traits in them. Those was the colors that was bouncing off the dogs. Now, back then you didn't, I have yet to seen a lilac dog way, around the 97 era. In the pictures that they show, there's no lilac dogs in the pictures that they show. That's a new gene. See, when you look at the color, now you got to know for yourself off the top, it's a new gene. And it does matter. And the reason that it matters is because you want to know what that dog is so that you can breed towards that trait. You want to breed towards whatever you putting in there. Well, I guess when you breed an American Bully and you sneak a Rottweiler off in there, I don't know if you can. Now, this is a crazy question. Do you think you can breed one of them normal sized Gotti dogs to a miniature pinscher? A female normal sized Gotti dog to a miniature pinscher. To a boy miniature pinscher. Because if you could, then you'd be keeping all your size, I would imagine. Because ain't no doggone boy, but if he did get small as a miniature pinscher, he probably would never get shown. But He be probably sick though. But you know what I'm saying? He be tight. You know what I mean? But uh you know, that could be where you got your tricolor gene from. Cause you have to incorporate these genes. You have to get them from somewhere. You just can't breed two blue dogs that started from black dogs and get tricolor dogs, man. You know what I'm saying? This is all something that had to be incorporated, all something that had to be bought in. You know, it has to be bought in, and it was, You know, if you look at it and you think about it, it was. If you go all the way back to the heritage of the American Bully and what the dogs look like, you can see that there were colors bought in. Like such as the tricolor when it came in, and then you got the lilac dogs that came in. They came in and they had to come in from a color, and it was just like, damn, how did you alleviate red from the program? How did you alleviate black and white, brindle? How? Like, dang, that's a question. That's a question in itself. But yeah, that's what the dogs used to be. I used to go over to my cousin's house, and he had a homeboy, and we would go over to their house, and his homie had two dogs. They were short little pocket bullies. I would have to say they was pocket bullies way before pocket bullies was even introduced to the world. They was already there. And he had one boy, and he was completely all white with brindle on his back and two brindle patches on his face. And a girl dog, she could have possibly been his sister. We didn't even know. We was, young dudes, probably like 13, 14 years old. And she was just looked the same way, but she was more white with just a brindle patch on her tail. And the babies that they had was just incredible. Every single one of the babies looked the same. They were just brindle or more white. But they was all short pocket. And this was long before anybody had even heard anything of a bully. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the only person that had heard of it then was the people that was actually in the midst of creating that dog. Everybody else just had a pit bull. And the pit bull that you had, I guarantee you, it was, man, that dog was probably better than what you see on the floors today. It was probably better, and you know some of y'all know it. You'll do the background history on a dog that you used to own, and you'll be like, damn man, I had this dog that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? If I would have took him to the show ring, he could have probably changed the game, and that would have been a true statement because the dog was full of pit bull, and it was already bully, but a trend came and everybody wanted to follow it. So that gorgeous dog you bred out, and man, some of the things that you were breeding to, you didn't even know that, the real backyard breeders, because, you got to remember a lot of y'all was young, and there was older breeders out there who had took and mixed dogs. And once they took and mixed them dogs, they took and gave them to the community. Sold them. Remember when you was getting the $200 dogs? Remember the $200 dogs? The F1s. You know what I'm saying? They had took and mixed dogs, and you know what I'm saying? They was getting rid of them, and you were getting them. Now, although those were pure lines back then too, because they had some good stuff they had mixed up in there, but the dogs, they became a little bit more aggressive too. You know what I mean? Because some of them, remember them little short pit bulls that your dad and them used to make? Because your dad probably didn't even know he was creating American bullies. He just had two short pit bulls that, to him, they were pit bulls. Remember back in the days when some of y'all, when you was growing up? Well, those little pit bulls used to fight all the time. Remember? They would you could sick them on anything. They were short and they was hot too. They were full of fire. They would go with you. Man, you would have dogs back then that would go with you to the creek. They would run with you. They would play with you, cause you being a little kid and you having a whole lot of drive yourself. You know, they ate a lot of jelly beans and now laters. They had you some honey buns. You run around in circles. You full of sugar. Your parents really was glad that you was gone. You had a bike. You done left it somewhere and took off on your feet with your dog. For real. Remember when you was growing up? Now, the dogs that you seen, they started getting bigger. And the bigger ones started biting too. Because of the other dogs they were putting in that you didn't know what they was putting in. You had no clue, no idea. You just liked it because it was blue. And some of them, they started off big. And after they started off big, then they shrunk. They shrunk down in size. And then that was another trend. Everybody wanted the shrunken blue dogs. Now all these dogs had names and we all know what they were and you don't have to call them. Because they really did shrink. They started shrinking down to little shrunken blue dogs. Now after they shrunk down to shrunken blue dogs, that's when it just took off and went crazy. Then you had all kinds of dogs just popping out. But from the beginning, you already knew what the dogs looked like from the beginning. If you yourself personally, if you say that you owned a pit bull style dog back from the 87 era all the way up to the 97 era, you know for a fact your dog was a different color. Most of them was red or black or white. Because they really were. And now the dog that you have today is a tricolored dog. That's a Rottweiler color. That's due to lineage of the German Pinscher. That dog is the dog that brought the tricolor into the country. They had to breed him into many different Pinscher dogs and little terrier dogs to get that gene into the country, to get that tricolor gene into the country, because the German Pinscher at that time was not supposed to be in the country. It was illegal to have it here. So they had to do things to get that gene over here. And they bred it to little terrier dogs, and they bred it to little Pinscher dogs, and they got that gene over here. That's where the tricolor gene come from. And you gotta look that gene up itself, and I did. The whole gene comes from the German Pinscher. And the German Pinscher, created the German Pinscher created that Rottweiler, the Doberman Pinscher, and the Min Pin. They all have his gene. They all have his gene. So, you know what I'm saying? When you started seeing the tricolor dogs coming in, those were the dogs with the gene from the German Pinscher. Then once the lilac came, like I said, because that was the first one that that I ended up seeing, and then all the different colors came next. You know what I mean? It was over with then. Remember the brown chocolate dogs you used to get? You don't get no more brown chocolate dogs. These are colors. From blending in all these colors, you alleviated the colors that were originally there. The original colors are gone. Sometimes you may get a throwback original color. And you can always breed a black or a white dog. Some of the original colors were just washed out. I'm telling you, there was a strain of pit bull terriers down here in Northern California. There was a strain of those dogs that was short, and they were brindle and white. And those dogs were killed off, but that was a crazy strain that was down here. And see, we were so young, we didn't know nothing about strains. We was at that age to where we couldn't do nothing but pet a dog. You could not own a dog. You had to wake up and go to school in the morning. That's what age we was at. But we was around these dogs, we was around these dogs. So, when someone get to saying something about the new dog, I mean, I seen it, the dog change. Completely seen it change. To where it looked like almost a big bulldog mastiff type dog now. And he just keep on flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping and flipping. It ain't gonna never be no breed. If it's under construction, I mean, shoot. Man, ain't nobody better not be creating no fluffy American bully. Don't do that. Create a fluffy American bully? Oh man, that's when you know it's over. it's over. It's over then. Don't create a fluffy American bully, man. You know what I'm saying? But remember how the dogs used to look when you first owned them. And maybe you might, when you think of going in a direction, that might be your first direction, is how the dogs used to look to you in your head. If you're going to go in a different direction, then, you're not jumping on the bandwagon. That's just the direction you want to go in, I guess. I don't know. But I know what a pit bull is, and I know what a pit bull American Staffordshire Terrier cross look like. And man, them dogs right there are short, stocky, and full of drive, full of fire. Full of fire, especially if they was bred the way they was being bred down here in NorCal. Them dogs would grab on the tether balls or balls in a sock, or if you had a basketball, shake it up. I'm talking about these dogs would get it. They would get it. They wasn't the kind of dogs you had to keep on a leash and pull out his shoulders. I like to pull out the shoulder thing, but they wasn't those kind of dogs. You know what I'm saying? You pull on his shoulders, he might get crazy. For real, I'm telling you, they was little fire dogs. Dogs that'll look at that dog on the side of him and try to snap him by the neck. Try to get him. They was hot. Those was the kind of dog, and they was fighting all the time. I remember a lot of dog fights when I was growing up, and they were accidental dog fights because a boy just didn't like some, or a girl just didn't like some, or you see two dogs running in the street and start fighting. I see packs of dogs sometimes, and they don't never want to fight each other. Be three boys following one girl down the street, and they won't fight. Yeah, I just said, man. So remember, what I'm saying, what you was raised on, and that could be that could be part of your drive. Now, me, myself, personally, if I was to do something different, it would be with a Frenchie, It would be with a Frenchie. Would I go original Frenchie? Would I get a fluffy Frenchie? Right now, you have a world of Frenchies to choose from. A world of Frenchies. I mean, I wonder what the American Kennel Club Frenchie people have to say about this. Like, their dog has been made out to be every single dog you can imagine. Man, that French Bulldog is every single dog you can imagine. They're all pretty, I guess, but if they're not torn up and can't breathe and don't have an underbite or overbite, and they just can't see or hear and have splayed feet, messed up tail, even more messed up than what it was already. Oh man, the booty just way up in the air. And some of them be so ugly in the face. I guess he's worth $1 zillion. Yeah, those are the ones that you probably should stray away from. If you're going to breed a nice one, try to just breed a nice one, colorful, nice one, but don't breed the one that got duck feet. If his feet just look like ducks, they got webbed feet. And his nose is so far in that he can't even, oh man. That's inhumane almost. That's animal cruelty. That's animal cruelty at its finest. That is animal cruelty at its finest. Some things that you do to a dog is animal cruelty. I'm gonna have to talk about that on Face the Bullet.